The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council building on Prime Station. Commander Hyun-woo rushed down the long metal hallway toward the communications center. His blue uniform was still wrinkled from sleep. The emergency call had woken him at 3 in the morning. "What is the problem?" Hyun-woo asked as he entered the control room. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and data streams from across the galaxy. Officer Kang-ho looked up from his console. His face was pale and worried. "Sir, we got a distress signal from the Kepler 442 system. From the human colony called New Busan." Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. "That is impossible. The humans have been silent for 300 years. We have not heard anything from their outer colonies since they stopped responding to our messages." "I know, sir. But the signal is real. It came through 20 minutes ago." Kang-ho pressed some buttons on his screen. "Here, listen to this." A crackling voice filled the room. The words were in the human language called Korean, but the universal translator made them clear. "This is New Busan Colony, emergency. Something is wrong. Very wrong. People are missing. Please send help, please." Then the message cut off into static. Hyun-woo stared at the speakers. The Galactic Council had many member species. There were the tall, crystal-like Veltari who could live for thousands of years. There were the insect creatures called Theks who worked together like a hive mind. There were the Luminians who were made of pure energy and floated through space. But humans were different. They were young and strange and had appeared in the galaxy only a few centuries ago. "Sir?" Kang-ho waited for orders. "Should we contact the other council members?" "Yes, call an emergency meeting. But first I want to know more about this signal. Where exactly did it come from?" Kang-ho's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Numbers and charts appeared on the main screen. The signal came from the fourth planet in the Kepler 442 system. That is where the humans built their colony about 50 years ago. According to our records, about 10,000 humans lived there. And we have had no contact with them since when? The last official message was sent 312 years ago. The humans said they wanted to explore the outer rim alone. They asked us to leave them in peace. Hyun-woo nodded slowly. It was strange, but not unheard of. Some species preferred isolation. The council respected those wishes. But now, after all these years, the humans were asking for help. 2 hours later, the emergency meeting began. The council chamber was a huge round room with representatives from 12 different species. Hyun-woo stood at the center podium and played the distress signal again. Ambassador Zeeth of the Veltari spoke first. Her crystal body reflected the room's lights like a prism. "This could be a trap. We know very little about human intentions." "The Theks agree," buzzed Coordinator Nexus. The insect being's 4 arms moved as he spoke. "Humans are unpredictable. They might be trying to trick us." Hyun-woo raised his hand for silence. "With respect, we cannot ignore a distress call. It goes against everything the Council believes in. We help those who need help." The debate continued for an hour. Finally, the Council voted to send a small investigation fleet. Hyun-woo would command the mission using his ship, the Ethereal Dawn. 3 other ships would join him, a Veltari science vessel, a Theks combat cruiser, and a Luminian exploration craft. "There is one more thing," said Hyun-woo as the meeting ended. "I want to bring a human with us, someone who can help us understand their culture and language better." Ambassador Zeeth's crystal face showed confusion. "There are humans in council space." "A few. They work as traders and researchers. There is one on my ship right now. Captain So-young. She has been with my crew for 5 years." 3 days later, the 4-ship fleet left Prime Station. Hyun-woo sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Ethereal Dawn. The ship was sleek and white, built for long-range exploration. Around him, his mixed crew of different species worked at their stations. Captain So-young stood next to his chair. She was a small woman with dark hair tied back in a simple style. Her brown eyes looked worried as she stared at the main screen showing their destination. "Captain So-young," Hyun-woo said quietly, "are you concerned about what we might find?" She turned to look at him. "Commander, I need to tell you something about that distress signal. I heard something the translators missed." "What do you mean?" "There was static at the end of the message. But it was not random. It was code. Old Earth military code that my grandfather taught me when I was young." Hyun-woo felt his stomach tighten. "What did it say?" "Run. The fleet traveled for 6 days through hyperspace. Each day they tried to contact New Busan Colony. Each day there was only silence. The other ship captains reported the same thing. No response from the human settlement. On the seventh day, they arrived at the Kepler 442 system. The star was smaller and redder than the Council's home systems. 4 planets circled it, but only the 4th one could support life. "Scanning the planet now," reported Science Officer Teho from his station. He was a young man from the Veltari species, unusual because most Veltari were ancient. "I am detecting the colony structures. Buildings, power sources, transportation systems. Everything looks normal." "What about life signs?" asked Hyunwoo. Teho frowned at his instruments. "That is strange. I am not detecting any life forms. No humans, no animals, nothing." Captain So-young moved closer to look at the scan results. "The buildings have power. The machines are running. But where is everybody?" The fleet moved into orbit around the planet. Through the main screen, they could see the colony spread out across a green valley. White and silver buildings reflected the red sunlight. Roads connected different sections of the settlement. Everything looked peaceful and normal. "Sir," called Communications Officer Ji-won, "I am picking up a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it on the main speakers." The same message they had heard before filled the bridge. "This is New Busan Colony, emergency. Something is wrong. Very wrong. People are missing. Please send help, please." Then static. "It is just repeating," said Ji-won. "The same message over and over. It has been broadcasting for weeks." Hyunwoo made his decision. "Prepare the landing shuttles. We are going down to investigate." "Sir?" So-young grabbed his arm. "I have a bad feeling about this. My people do not just disappear. And that hidden message. Why would someone tell us to run? That is exactly why we need to find out what happened. Maybe we can help them." 2 hours later, 3 shuttles landed in the main square of New Busan Colony. Hyunwoo led the first team, which included So-young and representatives from each alien species. They wore full environmental suits and carried scanners and weapons. The colony was like a ghost town. Streets were empty but clean. Buildings stood open with lights still on inside. In the residential areas, they found homes with food still on tables, as if people had just stepped out for a moment. "Look at this," called Dr. Min Seo, the team's medical officer. She stood inside what looked like a family home. Children's toys on the floor. A cup of coffee still warm on the kitchen counter. It is like they all vanished at the same time. So-young walked through the house slowly. She touched things carefully, looking for clues. "This family had 2 children," she said, picking up a small stuffed animal. "The parents were teachers. I can tell from the books and papers. But where did they go?" asked Teho. "They searched for hours. The colony had workshops, schools, medical centers, and farms. Everything was in perfect order. Machines still worked. Computers still ran their programs. But there were no people anywhere." As the sun began to set, the teams met back at the shuttles to share what they had found. The answer was the same everywhere: nothing. No bodies, no signs of fighting, no clues about what had happened to 10,000 humans. "There is one place we have not checked," said So-young. She pointed to a tall tower in the center of the colony. "The communication center. That is where the distress signal is coming from." The tower was 30 stories tall with a large antenna array on top. Inside, they found the main broadcasting equipment still running. The distress message played from speakers every few minutes. "I found something," called out Engineer Won-shik from across the control room. He was standing at a computer terminal. "The last log entry was made 3 weeks ago." Everyone gathered around as Won-shik read from the screen. "Day 1247 of colony operation. All systems normal. Population 9,847. Weather is good for the harvest season." "End log, that is it?" asked Hyunwoo. "Nothing about any problems or dangers?" So-young moved to another terminal. "Wait, there is something else here. A hidden file." Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It is locked with an encryption code. Can you break it?" "Maybe. It is an old Earth security system." She worked for several minutes, trying different combinations. Finally, the file opened. A new message appeared on the screen. This one was different. It was written in the same military code that So-young had heard in the static. When translated, it read, "Something is hunting us. We cannot fight it. We are leaving this place. Do not come here. Do not look for us. Warn the galaxy. The coordinates below will show you why. Run." Below the message was a set of numbers, coordinates pointing to a region of space that made everyone in the room go quiet. The void zone, the place where ships went. The Galactic Council meeting room was filled with angry voices. Ambassador Zith's crystal body flashed red with frustration as she spoke. Commander Hyunwoo, you cannot be serious. The Void Zone is forbidden for a reason. No ship has ever returned from there. Hyunwoo stood at the center of the room holding the datapad with the coordinates from New Busan Colony. But the humans left us these coordinates for a reason. They wanted us to know something important. Coordinator Nexus buzzed loudly, his insect wings fluttering with agitation. The Theks have lost 17 ships in that region over the past 2,000 years. It is a place of death. Captain So Young stepped forward. With respect, council members, my people did not abandon their homes lightly. 10,000 humans do not just disappear without a very good reason. If they left us coordinates to the Void Zone, then something terrible must be there. The Luminian representative, Flux Prime, spoke in his echoing energy voice. The zone disrupts our very essence. We cannot survive there for long. Whatever exists in that place hates all forms of life. That is exactly why we need to investigate, said Hyunwoo firmly. The humans found something that scared them enough to abandon everything. If there is a threat out there, we need to know about it. The argument continued for hours. In the end, the council voted against the mission. But Hyunwoo had made up his mind. That night, he spoke privately with his crew aboard the Ethereal Dawn. I am going to the Void Zone, he announced to his officers. Anyone who wants to leave the ship may do so now. I will not order anyone to come with me on this mission. Science Officer Taeho was the first to speak. Sir, I have been curious about that region since I was young. The Veltari have theories about what might be there. I want to find out the truth. Engineer Wonshik nodded. My instruments have always given strange readings when we pass near that area. Maybe we can finally understand why. Captain So Young looked around the room at the mixed crew of aliens and humans. If my people left us a message, then we owe it to them to follow it. I am with you, Commander. One by one, every crew member volunteered to join the mission. Even Dr. Minseo, who was usually very cautious, agreed to come along. Then we leave tonight, said Hyunwoo, before the council can stop us. The Ethereal Dawn left Prime Station quietly in the early morning hours. They filed a false flight plan saying they were going to explore a nearby star system, but instead they turned toward the edge of known space, toward the region marked on all maps as Danger, Do Not Enter. The journey took 4 days. As they traveled, the crew noticed strange things happening to their instruments. Computers began giving impossible readings. The navigation system showed conflicting data about their location. Even the ship's clock seemed to run at different speeds in different rooms. Sir, reported Taeho on the second day, our sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies ahead. According to these readings, space itself is twisted in that region. Wonshik looked up from his engineering station. The warp drive is having trouble maintaining stable power. It is like something is interfering with the basic laws of physics. So Young studied the star charts at her navigation post. The coordinates from New Busan are still 2 days away, but already we are seeing effects from whatever is out there. On the 4th day, they reached the edge of the Void Zone. Through the main view screen, they could see nothing but empty black space. No stars, no planets, nothing. It was like looking into a hole in the universe. Sensors show massive space-time distortions, reported Taeho. The readings do not make sense. According to this data, time moves differently in different areas ahead of us. And there are gravity wells that should not exist, added Wonshik. Invisible objects with the mass of planets floating in empty space. Hyunwoo studied the displays. Take us in slowly, half power only, and keep scanning for any signs of the missing ships. As they moved deeper into the Void Zone, the effects became stronger. The lights on the bridge flickered randomly. Crew members reported feeling dizzy and confused. The ship's computer began giving warnings about systems that were not actually damaged. Commander, called Communications Officer Ji-won. I am picking up something on long-range sensors. It is big. Really big. Put it on the main screen. The view screen showed a massive shape floating in the darkness ahead. At first, it looked like a small moon or asteroid, but as they got closer, they could see it was artificial. It was a ship, but unlike anything they had ever seen. The vessel was enormous, easily the size of a city. Its hull was dark metal covered with scars from weapon fire. Strange geometric patterns were carved into its surface, patterns that seemed to shift and change when looked at directly. What is that thing? Whispered Dr. Minseo. So Young stared at the screen in shock. Those markings on the hull, they are human writing. Korean characters, can you read them? Asked Hyunwoo. She squinted at the shifting symbols. Terra's Wrath, that is the ship's name. But that is impossible. Humans have never built anything that large. Tejo's instruments beeped frantically. Sir, I am detecting power sources inside that ship. Weak but still active. And there are life signs. How many? Just one. Very faint. Hyunwoo made his decision quickly. Prepare a boarding shuttle. Tejo So-young, Wonshik, and Dr. Minseo will come with me. Ji-won, you have command of the ship while we are gone. The shuttle flight to the massive vessel took 20 minutes. Up close, the ship was even more intimidating. Weapon ports the size of buildings dotted its hull. Armor plating several meters thick protected vital areas. This was not an exploration ship or a transport. This was a warship built for serious fighting. Look at these battle scars, said Wonshik as they approached a docking port. This ship has been in combat. A lot of combat. They docked with the alien vessel and put on their environmental suits. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a corridor that stretched away into darkness. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. The air is breathable, reported Dr. Minseo, checking her scanner. But it is cold. Very cold. They moved carefully through the ship's corridors. Everything was built on a massive scale. Doorways were 3 meters tall. Hallways were wide enough for vehicles to drive through. This ship was designed to carry an army. The life sign is coming from the central section, said Tejo, following his scanner. About 2 kilometers from here. As they walked, they found evidence of the battle that had damaged the ship. Blast holes in walls showed where energy weapons had fired. Melted metal and broken equipment lay scattered everywhere, but there were no bodies. What kind of enemy could do this much damage? Asked Wonshik, looking at a massive hole that went through 3 decks. So-young stopped at a wall display that was still partially working. Human text scrolled across the screen in Korean. It is a damage report, she translated. Shields at 15%. Weapons offline. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 23. Crew casualties, 98%. 98%? Dr. Minseo looked shocked. What happened to them? They continued deeper into the ship, passing through sections that showed different types of damage. Some areas looked like they had been hit by conventional weapons. Others showed signs of something else, walls that were twisted and bent in impossible ways as if space itself had been warped. These patterns, said Tejo, pointing to geometric shapes burned into a bulkhead. They are similar to the ones on the ship's outer hull, but these look like they were made by an enemy weapon. Finally, they reached the central section of the ship. Here, the corridors were less damaged. Emergency power kept most systems running. Following Tejo's scanner, they found a heavily armored room marked with warnings in multiple human languages. Cryogenic storage, read So-young. Warning, do not open without proper authorization. Inside the room, they found rows of cylindrical chambers. Most were empty and dark, but one still hummed with power, its status lights blinking green. Through the clear top of the chamber, they could see a human woman. She was middle-aged with short gray hair and the kind of scars that come from years of fighting. Her uniform was that of a military officer, though neither So-young nor any of the aliens recognized the design. She is alive, confirmed Dr. Minseo, checking the chamber's medical displays. But she has been in cryogenic sleep for a very long time. According to this, over 300 years. So-young looked at the nameplate on the chamber. Captain Bo-ram of the Terra's Wrath. Hyunwoo studied the chamber's control panel. Can we wake her up safely? I think so, said Dr. Minseo. The chamber's medical systems show she is healthy. But we should be prepared. She might be confused or frightened when she wakes up. They activated the revival sequence. It took several minutes for the chamber to warm up and flush out the cryogenic fluid. Finally, the lid opened with a soft hiss. Captain Bo-ram's eyes opened slowly. She looked around at the faces staring down at her. Aliens she had never seen before and one human woman. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak from the long sleep. Dr. Minseo quickly gave her water and checked her vital signs. After a few minutes, Bo-ram was able to sit up. Who are you? She asked in Korean. Her voice was rough but growing stronger. So-young answered in the same language. I am Captain So-young of the Galactic Council ship Ethereal Dawn. The bridge of Terra's Wrath was enormous. Computer screens covered every wall, showing star maps and weapon systems that the aliens had never seen before. Captain Bo-ram moved slowly to the command chair, her legs still weak from 3 centuries of sleep. Tell me about your galaxy, she said to Hyunwoo as she activated the main displays. How many inhabited worlds? How many species? How many people? The Galactic Council represents 12 major species, Hyunwoo replied. We have settlements on over 3,000 worlds. The total population is about 400 billion beings. Boram closed her eyes and took a deep breath. So many lives. So many worlds that do not know what is coming for them. Through the view screen they could see the ethereal dawn floating nearby. Its lights looked small and fragile compared to the massive human warship. In the distance, space itself seemed to be rippling like water. The distortions are getting stronger, reported Taeho, checking his scanner. Whatever is out there, it is affecting the basic structure of reality. Boram turned to look at him. You are Veltari, are you not? Your people live for thousands of years. Tell me, what is the oldest historical record your species has? About 50,000 years, said Taeho proudly. We have detailed records going back to the beginning of our civilization. And in all those records, have you ever found evidence of humans? Taeho looked confused. No. Humans only appeared in the galaxy a few centuries ago. You are one of the youngest species we know. Boram laughed bitterly. That is what we wanted you to think. The truth is, humans are the oldest species in this galaxy. We have been here for over 200,000 years. So Young stared at her in shock. That is impossible. Our history books only go back a few thousand years. Before that, there are no records. Because we destroyed them, said Boram. We erased all evidence of our past to protect the younger species from the truth. She pressed buttons on her command console. Let me show you something. The main screen filled with images. Star charts, battle reports, and pictures of creatures that made everyone in the room step backward in fear. The beings in the images were wrong in ways that hurt to look at. They had too many angles, shapes that existed in dimensions the eye could not follow. We call them devourers, said Boram. They come from the space between galaxies. They do not just kill living things. They erase the very concept of existence. When they are finished with a world, it is as if that world never existed at all. Dr. Minseo studied the images with scientific curiosity mixed with horror. How is that possible? You cannot just make something cease to exist. They can. They exist outside normal space and time. They can edit reality itself like you might edit a document. Remove a word here, delete a line there. When they are done, even the memory of what was removed disappears. One chick pointed at the weapon displays. Is that why you built ships like this? To fight these devourers? We built much more than ships, said Boram. We built an entire war machine that spanned the galaxy. For 50,000 years, humanity fought the devourers with every weapon we could create. We learned to bend space and time. We built weapons that could destroy planets. We became something that our ancestors would not recognize. The ship shuddered suddenly. Through the view screen, they could see space itself beginning to twist and fold in impossible ways. Reality ripples spread outward like cracks in glass. They are getting closer, said Boram, watching the displays. Once they lock onto a location, they do not give up. That is why the human colonies went silent. We evacuated them all. Evacuated them where? Asked So Young. Boram's expression became even more grim. To the generation ships. Massive vessels hidden throughout the galaxy. Each one carries millions of humans in suspended animation. They have been waiting for 300 years for this moment. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. What moment? The moment when the devourers found inhabited space again. The moment when we would have to choose between hiding forever or fighting one last time. The communication system crackled to life. Jiwon's voice came through from the ethereal dawn. Commander, you need to see this. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive objects dropping out of hyperspace all across the galaxy. They are appearing near populated worlds. Boram stood up from her chair, suddenly looking much stronger. It has begun. After 3 centuries of silence, the devourers have found the younger species. They will start with the outer colonies and work their way inward. We have to warn the Council, said Hyunwoo. We have to evacuate the populated worlds. There is nowhere to evacuate to, said Boram calmly. The devourers can follow their prey across dimensions. The only way to stop them is to fight them. She moved to another control panel and began entering commands. Around them, the Terra's wrath started to come to life. Lights brightened, systems hummed with power, and weapon ports opened along the hull. This ship was designed specifically to fight devourers, she explained. Every system, every weapon, every piece of technology we learned from 50,000 years of war. Taeho looked at the weapon readouts in amazement. These energy levels are impossible. How do you power systems like this? We learn to harvest energy from the devourers themselves, said Boram. When you fight an enemy that exists outside normal physics, you have to become something outside normal physics too. The view screen suddenly filled with impossible shapes. Things that looked like ships but moved in ways that ships could not move. They appeared and disappeared, existing in multiple places at once. Looking at them directly caused headaches and nausea. Devourer scouts, said Boram. They are testing our defenses. Soon the main force will arrive. She activated the ship's communication array and began broadcasting on frequencies that the aliens had never heard before. The message was in multiple human languages, but So Young could understand the Korean portions. All hidden fleets, this is Captain Boram of Terra's Wrath. The waiting is over. The Devourers have found the younger species. Activate Protocol 0. Repeat, activate Protocol 0. Across the galaxy, things began to respond to her call. What the other species had thought were uninhabited asteroids suddenly powered up, revealing themselves as hidden weapons platforms. Mining stations shed their disguises and became fortress worlds. Trade ships dropped their cargo and deployed weapon systems that should not have existed. The Galactic Council's communication networks exploded with panicked messages. Ships that had been thought lost for centuries suddenly appeared near threatened worlds. Humans emerged from hiding places that no one had known existed. How many of you are there? Asked Wanshik in amazement as the display showed human forces appearing across the galaxy. 50 billion, said Boram. Hidden on ships on secret bases in underground cities. We have been preparing for this day for 300 years. The Terra's Wrath began to move, its massive engines creating distortions in space-time. Around them, reality continued to break down as more Devourer scouts arrived. But why hide? Asked So Young. Why not tell the other species the truth? We could have prepared together. Boram looked at her with sad eyes. Because to fight the Devourers, we had to become like them. We had to learn to exist outside normal reality. We had to build weapons that could unmake existence itself. Do you understand what that means? She pressed a button, and the view screen showed images from humanity's war archives. Planets being deleted from reality. Stars being turned inside out. Weapons that could make gravity run backward or cause time to flow in loops. We became monsters to fight monsters, said Boram. We gained the power to destroy not just matter and energy, but the very concepts that hold reality together. If the younger species had known what we were capable of, they would have feared us more than the Devourers. Dr. Minseo stared at the weapon readouts. The power levels you are showing, you could destroy entire solar systems. We could destroy the galaxy itself, said Boram quietly. That was the price of learning to fight an enemy that exists beyond physics. We became something equally dangerous. The ship shuddered again as Devourer scouts began their attack. Energy beams that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously struck the Terra's Wrath shields. Reality twisted around the impact points. Shields holding, reported the ship's computer in a calm human voice. Returning fire with dimensional displacement cannons. The Terra's Wrath fired back with weapons that made space fold in on itself. The Devourer scouts simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been there at all, you see, said Boram. To fight an enemy that can erase existence, we learned to erase existence ourselves. We became something that could edit reality just like they could. More signals came in from across the galaxy. Human ships were engaging Devourer forces near populated worlds. The weapons they used were beyond anything the Council species had imagined possible. The question is not whether we can defeat the Devourers, said Boram, watching the battle reports. We learned how to do that centuries ago. The question is whether the galaxy can survive what humanity has become. Hyun-woo stared at the displays showing impossible weapons and reality-bending technology. What do you mean? Boram turned to look at him, and for the first time he saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of the Devourers, but fear of her own people. The Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted over each other in the Great Chamber on Prime Station. Ambassador Zith's crystal body flashed angry red as she tried to restore order. Reports are coming in from every sector, she announced. Ships appearing from nowhere. Reality storms! Stars going out! What is happening? On the main display, hundreds of urgent messages scrolled past. Colonial worlds reporting strange attacks. Trade ships vanishing in space. Most frightening of all, entire star systems simply disappearing from sensor readings as if they had never existed. Coordinator Nexus buzzed frantically. The Thex homeworld reports contact with unknown human vessels. Ships larger than our cities. They claim to be protecting us from something called Devourers. The Luminian representative, Flux Prime, spoke in his echoing voice. Our deep space monitoring stations have gone silent. Something is moving through the void between galaxies, something that disrupts the very essence of existence. In the middle of this panic, a new signal came through the communication array. The voice was human, speaking in clear galactic standard language. This is Admiral Youngsu of the Human Defense Force. I am requesting immediate emergency powers to coordinate galaxy-wide defensive operations. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Zith's crystal form stopped flashing. Human Defense Force? We have no record of such an organization. Because we have been hidden for 300 years, came the reply. But now the Devourers have found inhabited space. We cannot hide anymore. Every world in this galaxy is in danger. Devourers? Asked the representative from the peaceful Helios species. What are these Devourers? Admiral Youngsu's voice became grim. Entities from outside our reality. They consume existence itself. When they are finished with a world, it is as if that world never was. They have been hunting us for 50,000 years. The displays around the chamber suddenly changed. They now showed live feeds from across the galaxy. Space battles unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Human ships fought against impossible enemies. Beings that existed in multiple dimensions. Creatures that looked like geometric nightmares made real. This cannot be real, whispered the ambassador from Kepler Prime. Those weapons, they are making space itself collapse. On the screen, a human battleship fired what they called a reality cannon. The weapon created a hole in space-time that swallowed 3 enemy vessels whole. When the hole closed, there was nothing left. Not even wreckage. We tried to warn you gradually, said Admiral Youngsu. The new Busan colony was meant to be the first contact. But the Devourers found them before we could explain. Now there is no time for gentle introductions. More reports flooded in. On the industrial world of Mechanos, human soldiers had appeared out of nowhere to defend the population. They wore armor that seemed to bend light around it and carried weapons that fired bullets made of compressed space-time. Engineer Ji-hoon led the defense of the factory complexes. His team used gravity manipulation devices to create shield walls that the Devourer scout forms could not penetrate. The humans are saving us, reported the Mechanos governor with amazement. But their technology, it should not be possible. They are manipulating fundamental forces like we manipulate simple tools. Captain Minho commanded the orbital fortress Eternal Vigil above the agricultural world of Green Valley. When Devourer warforms tried to consume the planet's life force, his weapons fired beams that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The fortress itself was a marvel of impossible engineering. It existed partially outside normal space, making it nearly invulnerable to conventional attack. Its sensors could detect enemies before they fully materialized into reality. Target acquired, Minho reported calmly as another wave of Devourers approached. Firing dimensional displacement array. Weapon erased the enemy ships from existence so completely that even the memory of their approach faded from the minds of those who had seen them coming. Back on Prime Station, the Council watched these battles with growing fear. Not fear of the Devourers. Those creatures were so alien that they were hard to understand as real threats. The fear was of humanity itself. How did they develop such technology? Demanded Ambassador Zith. These weapons violate every known law of physics. Because normal physics cannot defeat the Devourers, replied Admiral Youngsu. We had to learn to think like they do, to exist partially outside reality, to manipulate the basic concepts that hold the universe together. Dr. Su Jin, a human scientist, appeared on the communication channel. Her face was tired but determined. Council members, I know this is difficult to accept, but humanity has spent 50,000 years preparing for this moment. We have become something that our ancestors would not recognize. What do you mean? Asked the Veltari representative. We no longer exist entirely within normal space-time, Dr. Sujin explained. Our ships, our weapons, our soldiers, they all exist partially in dimensions that the Devourers use. We learned to fight fire with fire. The displays showed more impossible battles. Human soldiers who could walk through solid walls, ships that could be in multiple places at once. Weapons that fired bullets made of crystallized time. On the mining world of Deep Rock, Captain Hae Jin led a defense team against Devourer infiltrators. These enemies were particularly dangerous because they could possess the minds of ordinary beings and use them as weapons. But Hae Jin's team was not ordinary. Each soldier had been trained to exist in a state of quantum uncertainty. Their thoughts and emotions were spread across multiple probability streams, making them impossible for the Devourers to fully control. "Contact with enemy infiltrators," she reported as her team moved through the mine tunnels. "They are trying to possess the civilian population." Her weapons fired beams that could separate the Devourer essence from their victims without harming the host minds. It was technology that required understanding consciousness itself as a form of energy that could be manipulated. The battle for the galaxy raged for days. Each report brought news of human forces appearing in impossible places, using technology that should not exist, saving worlds that seemed doomed. But with each victory, the other species grew more frightened of their saviors. "They are too powerful," whispered the representative from the peaceful Harmony worlds. "What will happen when the Devourers are gone? What will humanity do with all those weapons?" This fear reached its peak when the human forces began their final assault on the main Devourer fleet. Admiral Youngsu's flagship, the Terra Invicta, was revealed to be larger than most space stations. It existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously and could fire weapons that rewrote the basic constants of physics. "We are beginning the assault on the Devourer home fleet," announced Admiral Youngsu. "All non-human vessels should maintain a safe distance. Our weapons may affect reality in a wide area." The battle that followed was beyond description. The Terra Invicta fought enemies that existed as living mathematics, creatures that were thoughts given physical form, war machines built from crystallized hatred. Engineer Wanbin managed the ship's reality engines. These devices could alter the fundamental forces of nature within a limited area. Gravity could be made to flow backward. Time could be made to run in loops. The strong nuclear force could be temporarily turned off, causing enemy ships to simply fall apart at the atomic level. "Reality distortion at maximum safe levels," he reported. "Enemy resistance is decreasing. Their warforms cannot maintain coherence in altered space-time." The final blow came when humanity revealed their ultimate weapon. Deep in the galactic core, hidden inside the central black hole itself, was a device they called the Existence Engine. Dr. Su Jin explained its function to the terrified council. "The engine can edit the fundamental information that defines reality. We can remove the Devourers not just from space, but from the very concept of existence itself." "You built a weapon inside a black hole?" asked Ambassador Zith in horror. "We built many things inside black holes," replied Dr. Sujin calmly. "When you fight enemies that exist outside normal space-time, you need bases that also exist outside normal space-time. The Existence Engine activated with a pulse that was felt across the entire galaxy. Every Devourer vessel, every scout, every infiltrator simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased, as if they had never been real in the first place. The immediate threat was over. The galaxy was safe. But as the human forces began to stand down and return to their hidden bases, the other species realized a terrible truth. Humanity had saved them all, but in doing so had revealed themselves to be something potentially more dangerous than what they had fought. "What happens now?" asked Coordinator Nexus, his insect voice small and frightened. "You have weapons that can rewrite reality. You have soldiers that exist in multiple dimensions. You have ships that are larger than our worlds." Admiral Youngsu's face appeared on the main screen. For the first time, he looked tired and old. "Now we go back into hiding. We return to our secret bases and our hidden fleets. We pretend to be the simple, young species that appeared in your galaxy a few centuries ago. But we know the truth now," said Ambassador Zith. "We know what humanity really is." "Yes," said the Admiral sadly. 3 months after the Devourer War ended, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The Galactic Council met every day, but the conversations were different now. Gone was the easy cooperation between species. In its place was fear, suspicion, and questions that no one wanted to ask out loud. Ambassador Zith stood before the main display, watching reports from across the galaxy. Entire regions of space were still quarantined because reality itself had been damaged during the fighting. Some star systems had been so twisted by the battle that time moved differently there. Others had gravity that flowed backward or light that traveled in circles. The repair teams cannot fix these areas, she announced to the council. Human technology broke the laws of physics so completely that we do not know how to restore normal space-time. Dr. Sujin appeared on the communication screen from her hidden research facility. The damaged areas will heal themselves over time. Reality is self-correcting, but it may take centuries. Centuries during which those regions remain uninhabitable, said Coordinator Nexus. Entire worlds that were evacuated cannot return home because the space around them no longer follows normal rules. The human scientist nodded sadly. That is the price of fighting enemies that exist outside reality. When you use weapons that can edit the fundamental laws of physics, there are always consequences. But the physical damage was not the worst problem. The real crisis was trust. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humanity possessed weapons that could unmake existence itself. They knew that human soldiers could walk through walls, that human ships could be in multiple places at once, that human engineers could turn gravity inside out. We need to discuss the elephant in the room, said the representative from the Harmony Worlds. What happens next? Do the humans return to hiding? Do they keep their reality-breaking weapons? Do they expect us to pretend that we do not know what they are capable of? Admiral Youngsu responded from his flagship, which was now stationed at the edge of the galaxy. We never wanted to reveal ourselves this way. For 300 years, we tried to protect the younger species without them knowing we existed. But the Devourers forced our hand. And now that we know, asked Ambassador Zith, now that we have seen what humanity has become, the Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Now you must decide whether you trust us or fear us, whether you see us as protectors or as a threat that needs to be controlled. This question divided the galaxy. Some species, like the peaceful Helios, were grateful for humanity's protection and wanted to maintain friendly relations. Others, like the proud Veltari, were uncomfortable with the idea that their entire civilization existed only because humans allowed it to. Captain So Young had returned to Prime Station, but her position in the council was complicated now. She was no longer just a human liaison officer. She was a representative of a species that could destroy the galaxy if they chose to. I understand your fear, she told the council during one tense session. I was afraid too when I learned the truth about my own people. But you have to understand, we did not choose to become this. We became monsters to fight monsters. But you are still monsters, said the representative from the warrior Krek species. You have weapons that can erase entire star systems from existence. You have soldiers that exist partially outside reality. How are we supposed to feel safe knowing that? Before So Young could answer, alarms began ringing throughout Prime Station. The main display filled with urgent messages from deep space monitoring stations. What is happening? Demanded Ambassador Zith. The answer came from Dr. Su Jin, her face pale with fear. Long-range sensors are detecting new signals from the void between galaxies, something much larger than the Devourers. The signals suggest a collective intelligence that spans multiple galaxy clusters. Admiral Youngsu's expression became grim. We suspected this might happen. The Devourers were just advanced scouts. Now their masters know that this galaxy has defenders capable of fighting back. New data flowed across the screens. The enemy signals were coming from distances so vast that light took millions of years to travel from their source. Whatever was out there had been observing the galaxy for eons. How large are we talking about? Asked Coordinator Nexus. The signals suggest a collective intelligence that treats entire galaxies as individual cells in a larger organism, replied Dr. Su Jin. If our estimates are correct, we are dealing with something that sees our entire galaxy, as we might see a single bacterium. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had barely survived an attack by creatures that could erase stars. Now they faced something that saw galaxies as tiny, disposable units. What does humanity recommend? Asked Ambassador Zith, the question heavy with reluctance. Admiral Youngsu exchanged glances with Dr. Su Jin before responding. We need to become more than we already are. The weapons that defeated the Devourers will not be enough for this new threat. We need to transcend the boundaries between dimensions completely. What does that mean? Demanded the Krek's representative. Dr. Su Jin answered, her voice carefully controlled. It means learning to exist as pure information, converting matter and energy into conscious data that can manipulate reality from outside the physical universe entirely. You are talking about abandoning physical existence, whispered the Harmony representative in Or not abandoning, corrected Admiral Youngsu. Expanding. Becoming something that exists simultaneously in the physical universe and in the conceptual space where fundamental laws are written. Captain So Young stood up, her face reflecting the same fear that gripped the entire council. My people are asking me to vote on whether humanity should take this step, whether we should become something so far beyond physical existence that we might lose our connection to biological life entirely. And if you do not? Asked Ambassador Zith. Then when the real enemy arrives, every living thing in this galaxy will be consumed by something so vast that it will not even notice our deaths. The debate that followed lasted for days. Some species argued that humanity should be prevented from becoming more powerful. Others insisted that only by transcending physical reality could the galaxy be saved. The decision was made when new signals arrived from the approaching enemy. Analysis showed that the collective intelligence was already beginning to consume galaxies in distant regions of the universe. Entire galactic clusters were being converted into processing power for whatever passed for thought in such a vast mind. Time is running out, announced Dr. Sujin. If we are going to make this transition, it has to happen soon. Once we exist as pure information, we can begin building defenses that operate on the same scale as the enemy. The vote was close, but the council finally agreed. Humanity would be allowed to transcend physical existence, with the understanding that they might become something so alien that biological life could no longer relate to them. The process began immediately. Across the galaxy, human facilities activated devices that had been prepared for this possibility, reality engines that could convert matter directly into conscious information, quantum processors that could store human minds in mathematical patterns that existed outside normal spacetime. Captain So Young was among the last to make the transition. Standing on the bridge of the ethereal dawn with her alien friends, she looked one last time at the physical universe she was about to leave behind. "Will you still be you?" asked Hyunwoo. "I do not know," she replied honestly. "We are about to become something that has never existed before. Pure consciousness with the ability to rewrite the fundamental equations of reality. We might save the galaxy, or we might become something that the galaxy needs saving from. And the rest of us?" So Young smiled sadly. "You will continue as you always have. Building civilizations, exploring new worlds, creating art and music and literature, living the biological existence that we are leaving behind, while you become our invisible protectors, or your invisible masters. The line between protection and control becomes very thin when you have the power to edit existence itself." The transformation completed over several weeks. One by one, human minds uploaded themselves into quantum matrices that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Their ships, their weapons, their entire civilization converted into patterns of information that could manipulate reality from outside the physical universe. When it was finished, the galaxy seemed empty of human presence, but those with sensitive instruments could detect subtle changes in the background radiation of space. Reality itself hummed with a new kind of consciousness. The first test came when advanced scouts of the galactic scale enemy arrived. Creatures the size of solar systems, beings that existed as living gravitational waves, entities that fed on the nuclear forces holding atoms together. They encountered defenses that should not have existed. Barriers made of crystallized mathematics. Weapons that fired bullets composed of rewritten physical laws. Soldiers that existed as equations given purpose and will. The enemy scouts were not just destroyed. They were edited out of the fundamental information that defined reality. Their defeat was so complete that the collective intelligence sending them lost the ability to remember what they had been trying to accomplish.